So without further ado, let's get into this. I want to be able to thank Art's help and Six Buzz as well, which has recently managed to amass 1 million followers on Instagram, which is a pretty good milestone, which I think is worthy of a round of applause. But let's go. So, Director X, probably your favorite director.
Your favorite director's favorite
Definitely
director.
your favorite director. Show of hands here, who has seen Hotline Bling? Okay, yeah, pretty much everyone. I'll be that. A few less. Okay.
That's a little hip hop. That's a little hip hop history for
That's some
everybody.
hip hop history right there. How about we go Aaliyah, back in One Piece? Yeah. Nelly, EI, hot in here. Okay, so basically, if you watched BT when you were a kid,
You're going a little underground for everybody. Back in One Piece was DMX and Aaliyah.
DMX and Aaliyah.
That was from the soundtrack for Romeo Must Die. But if you want to hit him with the Usher, You Got It Bad.
Oh yeah.
Sean Paul,
Give Me the Light.
Give Me the Light. Yeah, we're all familiar. All right,
Yeah.
back on track. Who saw Superfly? Let's ask the real questions.
Superfly?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Across the line. Okay.
Not as many for Across the Line. But Across the Line's a good film. It's good to, since you're in
see.
Canada, it's good to know about your Nova Scotian. Who knows about Nova Scotia and North Preston? No? Correct. So my first film was about North Preston, which is the largest black community in Canada. You know when they always say, and then the slaves took the Underground Railroad to Canada. The end. They went to a place called North Preston, and North Preston, so if you drive about half an hour away from Halifax, and then you make a left turn down a nondescript road and drive for about another 15 minutes, way at the end of that road is North Preston, where the runaway slaves found themselves. They just paved that road maybe in the past 10 years.
Okay. Well, with that, let's go a bit back to the beginning. Let's say you've been in this industry for over 2 decades now. So let's start off from the beginning, taking your journey before Hype Williams, before flying out to Jamaica to write storyboards. We'll go all the way back to how you first got your foot into the door.
Much Music. I did an internship with Much Music. There was a program in Peel called Co-op that you would spend 4 days of your week in a job, and then a day in school. So for 1 semester, I did that. So I'd be in Much Music for 4 days. But to be clear, how I got there was being in the scene, like being out here. There's a little poetry scene going on, and I would read poetry around the city. And being in the poetry scene, Rap City did a poetry episode. So I was one of the poets who read at the poetry episode. So I'm in Much Music, and I'm looking around, and Michelle Geister was the producer. And before that, who knows Big C? Does anyone know Big C? No? Okay, so Big C is one of our pioneers out here. Everyone knew that Big C was an intern at Much Music. And of course, because we didn't know anything about how jobs work, we all thought Big C was rich now. Because, yo, you rich, you work at Much, what? So he went and got a job at BMG. He was the head of urban music at BMG. And so we were all convinced he was really rich. But I knew there was an empty position. So I'm like, yo, Michelle, what's up with Big C's position? What's up with that job? And she said, all right, well, blah, blah, blah. And that what took us down the path to set up a co-op. And while I was there is when I really got interested in directing and camera and lights. I had done one project at Much Music and asked an editor to help me, but I didn't prepare. I walked in with the footage, I figured we'd do it, and it wasn't that good. We got it done. And I mean, this is before you could edit something on your phone or edit something on a computer. There was consumer, and then there was professional. And if you wanted to edit as a consumer, maybe your school had like a VHS editing system, but even that was just hard cutting things.
Super, okay.
Yeah, the ability to make someone's lips move to a song and put in different shots was impossible. Impossible. with consumer equipment. It couldn't be done. And if you didn't have the editing thing, you would take two VCRs and hook them together and like press play and pause on the other one. And then the one that you were recording on would lose quality because quality went down with every single generation. So this is this type of stuff we're dealing with. So in the edit bay, it's a giant room with tape decks and digibetas and 3/4 decks, and it's just a big machine, like it's like you're launching a rocket ship. So we did a project, I wasn't prepared, it sucked. So now that I was doing my project, I knew I had to go in prepared, so I would go into Much Music. And now my internship was done when this project came up. I was now at Vaughan Road, but this was before 9/11 and everyone wanted identification. Before security got really crazy in every building, I could still walk in because they didn't know I wasn't an intern anymore. So I'd still walk into Much Music like I worked there. Because I knew all the security guards. I'd be like, hey, what's up? Like, hey, what's going on? So after school, when everyone was done work, I would go into Much Music and use their tape machines. And I made my EDL, the editor decisions list, by hand. And I put in specifically down, now I realized I didn't need to be so specific, but I was down to like the frame, the fine, not just like, you know what I'm saying? I'm down to like, who knows their time code? 01, 01, 01, dot, dot, 22. And then I put the alt mark with the same specificity, like right down to the wire, the entire 3-minute piece. So now when I went back to the editor and said, can you help me put this together? I came with now we were assembling something. We were prepared and we knew what we were doing. We weren't in the edit like, hey, what do you think it'd be if we did the shot? There was none of that. We put it together. But with that equipment now, not only could I lip sync to the track, I could now have slow motion and dissolves. I could do all this fancy stuff. So my first video looked like a video. So with that, I sent a package. So I had that video. I had done a couple I had screen printed T-shirts of designs I had done, a package that I would send people with my art when I did logos and stuff. And I sent all that to a bunch of people in New York City. First I sent it because I found an article about Hype Williams. I sent that package to the writer of that article to find out how I could get in contact with his office, not him. So that's another weird part of the hustle that I've seen kids DM me, like, yo, call me, or what's your number, or, you know what I mean? Like, if it's just, I don't like giving away too much of the game, because I don't know if it really helps giving away things, but a freebie will be ask for your office, or your assistant, or you know what I'm saying? Who do I need to speak to deal with you, right? So I send the article. Mimi Valdez, who's now Pharrell's manager, who I still see around the business, I still take meetings with, wrote that article. And I sent the package, didn't hear anything back, phoned, and then I finally got her on the phone. Go, if I want to get a hold of Hype Williams, who do I send it to, and what's the number? She gave me the number to the office, the name, and then hung up on me. Right, but I even called back like, I think we got cut off, because she didn't answer the second time. But she was good enough to give me that information, which changed my life. So then I sent the package to Hype and wasn't hearing anything back. And just around the same time, the universe puts things in place. So as that had happened, Cardinal Official, everyone knows Cardinal Official? Right, so Cardinal has always been community-minded, and there was a program called Fresh Arts, which came out of the riots that we had on Yonge Street. They said, we need to give these kids something. So they started a jobs program for children, people of color, children of color in the arts. And it's a great example of what funding the arts looks like, because everyone that was in that program went on to have professions in radio and television, film, entertainment. Everyone went on to work in the business in some way because they were, developing it. So Fresh Arts was here, and then Cardinal started another one called, somehow he set up a deal with them that it's called Maroon Squad. So there was Fresh Arts, and then we're like the Navy SEALs of the, like I guess Fresh Arts is like Remix Project now. Everyone knows Remix, of course. So they're teaching you in Fresh Arts. They weren't really teaching us. So they were paying us to just kind of be in a room and make stuff. And Cardinal decides we're going to take a trip to New York and see record labels and all this stuff. So around the time that I'm calling Hype and saying, have you seen anything? We take this trip to New York. So I'm 19, I call them, and then someone says, we don't even know who you are. We don't know what you're talking about. And I still had kind of my hothead attitude. So I'm like, oh, then I'm going to show up and get my shit back. How about that? So I get the address of the office. I go. There's no one there. There's Amir, the receptionist. And I'm like, well, you're going to watch it. Someone's watching my tape. Someone's watching this. So he watches. He goes, oh, this is pretty good. You should wait for Chelsea. So Chelsea was the in-house producer. Chelsea shows up, and I show her. She goes, oh, this is good. What are you? And I'm like, I want an intern. I know I'm good enough to work for free, right? So Chelsea's like, all right, come back in like a month, and you can be an intern. So I come back to Toronto, and I start getting, there's a feeling that I get. I don't know if there's this small town walls closing in feeling that you may feel one day, where it just feels like I got to go, like, you know, and every conversation seems extra mundane. So, yo, what are you dealing with? Yeah, what are you doing? You know, bro, just working on the music still, you know? So, like, more time is like, you know, about the boss, you know? I'm like, I got to go. I've got to. So, 2 weeks early, I left and went to New York. And the day I walked in the office, see, again, the way the universe works, the day I walked in the office was the day Chelsea quit. So the executive producer, Kiki, looks at me and says, I don't know who you are, what this is about, or what's going on. So I left that day, and you guys watch Seinfeld? Do you remember George Costanza?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do you remember when he just kept going to work? I just showed up. I just came back and started working. But at the same time, I'm staying at my aunt and uncle's place in Flatbush. I'm in their like tiny little guest room. Another free tidbit: make your guest room just a little uncomfortable. Don't like, then this is the bed that makes you feel like $1 million. And they're like, so I'm moving in. Don't, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Just a little uncomfortable. They're like, it's nice, thanks for letting me stay, I gotta go. So they had me in a little uncomfortable guest room, no cable in the house, so there wasn't really anything pulling me back to the house, so I just stay in the office late. And then I do things like rearrange the furniture. So at first, the door into the office, you walked right in and the receptionist was there, so people kept on blowing by the receptionist. So one day they came in, and now the desk had been moved in front of the door, and all these chairs were along the wall, and they're like, yeah, this is better, don't you see? Now people will come, and they're like, okay, kid. And then they had a tape library, and there's a box of tapes, so like, go find the Wu-Tang video, and there's just tapes. It looks like what you think it looks like, just stacked in boxes everywhere. So I took the library system from Much Music and applied it to their tape system. So they came in one day, and there's a library box. So that's what you do. This is, like the old library, A, B, C, D. You look up Wu-Tang and you pick it up, and there's a code, because Much Music had codes for certain tapes. Digibetas were this, certain things were that, interviews were this. So I'd taken that exact same system and given it to them. Yeah. This is how you found out, oh, this kid is all right. Yeah. And then I could draw. So eventually they said, all right, enough with the interns thing. Because when I finally met Hype, if I was with Hype, back then we'd do our teleseries at night. We do night sessions, because during the day, a post-production facility does commercials. They're expensive, and it's a whole to-do. At nighttime, junior artists would do music videos. So I'll go in then, but we'd be working until wee hours of the morning. So I was like, well, if I was with Hype till 2 a.m., I'm not showing up at whatever, I'm working for free, I'm not doing that. So I'll come in late, and they finally said, all right, you're gonna draw storyboards. So between the in-office stuff, running packages, because that's also when you'd have to run tapes. So I'd take a 3/4 deck. I remember going to Def Jam with a cut of Hey Lover for LL Cool J, but somehow they had given me the same cut they had already seen. And there's Chris Lighty, rest in peace, Julie Greenwald, Leo Cohen, Kevin Lyles, who are all, Kevin runs a management company. Julie, I think, just left running Atlantic. Leo Cohen now runs Google, and again, Chris Lighty managed 50 Cent and all these things. Yeah, he passed away, rest in peace, Chris. But they were all yelling at me. What's wrong with you, you damn idiot? Like, this is, the music industry could, the way we used to behave would be scandalous today. Just the way employees, I should shoot you. Remember Leo was saying, I should shoot you right now. I want to shoot you in your face because she had like a bad idea. You know what I'm saying? We were nuts. Anyway, so that was but those experiences as an intern gave me relationships within record labels. So I had relationships at Bad Boy and Def Jam, which is another piece of the puzzle when you're looking where you're going to go with your hustle.
Okay, so I had a question for you, but this is a shameless plug, just for a second. So I'm an artist, my name's X Miranda, and I have a song called Relaxation Therapy that's kind of intended to make you relax, and it kind of like brings out that meditation vibe. So I rap through it and kind of like take you through a process of meditating through the song. So everyone check that out, Relaxation Therapy by X Miranda.
Nice.
Okay.
Your hurricane t-shirt now makes Galaxy Hurricane merger.
Galaxy type of I own the universe vibe type of thing. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So on a trip, so if you ever heard of Orgone Energy or Wilhelm Reich?
No, I actually haven't.
So let's go to Dr. Tachyon for a second. So Orgone Energy is, remember when you've ever heard, you guys researched Nikola Tesla? You remember, so the story's like, one day he said, there's electricity in the air, and then like, now we have to kill you. That electricity in the air that he was talking about, Wilhelm Reich also was experimenting with that same energy. He called it orgone energy. And he said that orgone energy is within us. It's directly related to our sex drive, our happiness. It's in plants and animals. It is why the galaxy, if you picture a galaxy, that spinning galaxy, looks a lot like a hurricane. When you think about a hurricane or a tornado or even, that funnel shape that we take for granted is actually it's the energy, it's the way that universal energy moves. It moves in those shapes, which is why, again, a galaxy looks exactly like a hurricane. So there you go, on the side notes. But you're saying?
Yes, I just had a question regarding like your come up. When you started off as like, you said you were a poet and then you transitioned into being a director and everything. I was just wondering, when it comes to your artistry, how did it happen? Like, were there examples when you first started where you were working with people and then maybe they weren't giving you credit as a director even though you were putting in work? Or there were instances where you were an artist? Because I just had like an incident that happened to me recently where I kind of was going back and forth with some different director I was working with regarding kind of like my input as an artist with like a recent music video I did where I felt like I was contributing and had like done a lot of directing as well, where I was looking for credit, but they kind of like weren't.
So let me explain a few things about the game to you and how the levels go. This is just you feel like, man, I really think I deserve a credit for that. Let me tell you about unions. There is the WGA, the Writers Guild of America. There's the DGA, Directors Guild of America. Let's take the scenario I find to be a little frustrating. Let's say you're a writer and I'm a director and I come up with an idea for a TV show. It's a show about aliens that love peanut butter and they invade Earth because they want to get all the Reese's peanut butter cups. It's going to be 3 seasons and I have all the characters and I know exactly what I want it to be, but I'm not a writer. So then I go to you and say, look, here's the characters and the writers. We're working on it together. We figure out all the things. We go around town. We pitch it together. You and me in every single room saying, yeah, so then the aliens show up and they start destroying Russia because Russia doesn't have enough Reese's peanut butter cups. And that's going to be the major arc. And we're doing all this stuff. And like, that's awesome. And then they say, all right, great. Your name again is? Esmeralda, go write it. So Esmeralda goes off and writes the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup Alien Invasion TV show. And then it's about to go on the air, and then I might say, hey, that created by credit that we're going to share is going to be awesome. And then the WGA says, whoa, did you write anything? No, but it's my idea. Like, it's my idea. And then Esmeralda wrote it up. Well, you didn't write anything, so you didn't create the show. All that. And moving on. You understand? That's the way it goes. Let's say a movie script comes to me. Let's say it even came from you. Esmeralda hands me a script, and I look at the script. I say, Esmeralda, there's some good stuff here, but I have ideas. New character, new story arc. I tear your script apart. We remake it. I go, hey, wouldn't it be awesome if I got a story by credit? Whoa! It is the job of the director to give notes to the writer. So how about you don't get a story by credit, you get a directed by credit, and shut up, because that's how the game goes, and there's no level of arguing or trying that's going to change that. And if you do, now you might be making people upset, and they remember that upsetness over something that why are you upset over, because the rules are well in place. So yeah, you might feel like you had a lot of ideas and that you're directing it, but the rules of the game, you don't get, hey, so put my name there with director. Just morally, no. And then once you start getting into unions, even the thought of it, your agent will say, don't say that to anybody else. Yeah,